Yo, what's good, everybody? Today I'm going to talk about Sebastian Fundora battering Tszyu, grinding him down to a nub until eventually breaking his spirit and forcing him to say no mas. First of all, I want to give all credit to Tszyu. I haven't been online much, so I can't verify, but I'm sure there are people who are accusing him of quitting after retiring in the corner. I didn't see it that way at all. Similar to how I saw Daniel Dubois getting knocked out, I saw a man in Tszyu give it his absolute all in this fight. He got battered and bruised throughout the whole fight. The entirety of the fight, he was getting pummeled right from the word go. Fundora was on him and he just never let up. And to be honest, in the first 3 to 4 rounds, it was looking grim for Tszyu, in my opinion. He was just getting pummeled over and over, and he himself barely found any success on landing his own shots, right? But he bit down, he tried to stay confident, and eventually he found something in the 5th and 6th round, right? He finally got a grasp on Fundora's timing and range, and he started landing heavy shots, which in turn, boosted his own confidence. He fought with a little bit more self-belief. He was a little bit more composed, and with his newfound confidence, he started sitting on his shots more, and with him landing these heavier shots more often, he managed to finally, keep Fundora a little bit more honest. But obviously, Fundora was just too much. The 7th round came, and it basically just turned into a firefight. I believe Tszyu landed his best shots in this round, and he even followed up in an attempt to put Fundora down. But we all saw what we saw. Regardless of what was landing on him, Fundora just never ever let up, never even took a backward step. He kept coming, and he just outlasted Tszyu. From my vantage point, Tszyu, to me, looked like he really emptied the tank in the 7th. He really went for it. He hurt Fundora a handful of times, and he pounced. He just couldn't do it. Fundora would fire back, and Tszyu literally just had nothing left. At the end of the round, he took a beating in the corner, and you could see he held onto the ropes and stood there for a while to really just gather himself. That right there is a depleted man, a defeated man, who had nothing left to give. He tried his best, he landed his best. He landed shots that would otherwise knock out about 95% of the division. And he took one hell of a beating, and I don't think he has anything to be ashamed of. I hope he keeps his head up high, take a long time to rest and recover, and keep it pushing. Now, let's get to the winner, the towering inferno, Sebastian Fundora. What a beast. Yo, this man is a killer robot. He is a machine. Fundora is a much improved fighter. Their first fight was just over a year ago, and I saw massive improvements from Fundora since then. He's so much more disciplined now. He's much more of a thinker now. He actually uses his advantages now, and he's not perfect at it yet, but he tries to keep his fundamentals in mind now. Defensively, he still leaves so much to be desired. He's still very hittable. There are still holes there, but I did see him tightening up a little bit. I saw a couple instances where he slips his head to the side by a couple inches to avoid an oncoming punch. I know that ain't much, but that's something. You didn't really see a lot of that back then. He also tucks his chin in more, so there's that. I'm just trying to stay positive here, defensively, Fundora is never going to be untouchable, right? I think we all know that because he strikes me as one of those fighters whose offense is his defense. He loves to shoot with his opponents. He welcomes shootouts, right? And he backs his ability to take a punch and his offensive firepower to win those exchanges each and every time. And to be honest, I say he's valid for thinking that way because he can crack, and he does have a beard. But speaking of his firepower, my God, does he have an abundance of it. Offensively, Sebastian Fundora is just a nightmare to deal with. First of all, obviously, the insane reach advantage is almost comical. and nowadays he's really learned how to take advantage of it. He's improved in the way he uses his length. You know, he no longer is on the constant heavy advance. He does still come forward, but he does it behind the jab now, and his weight is mostly placed on his back foot rather than the front. He doesn't overcommit or overextend anymore. He finally realized he doesn't have to do that, right? He can still wreak havoc and cause a lot of damage from the outside without putting too much into his punches. His lead hand, especially early on, is so difficult to get past. I think him and his dad and, you know, his whole team, I think they make it a point to keep it in his opponent's face, to blind them and pester them with it to the point they make a mistake. Fundora is seamless at going from his jab to his hook, and he is so good at throwing the flicker jab. Hell, I think he took it a step further, because if you watch closely in the second round, not only was he throwing flicker jabs, he was also throwing flicker hooks. He literally looked like an octopus waving its tentacles around in the second round. It was crazy. I urge you guys to watch it back. Just go watch the second round in particular. Look at that round and look at how he throws his jabs and hooks. He just flicks them around and he looks like a freaking octopus. It's insane. But I digress. You know, if and when his opponent does get through the lead hand, his backhand is always there waiting. And not only that, every time Tim Tszyu was in close proximity, whenever Tim Tszyu broke through, right, Fundora would just throw a barrage. I was listening to Teddy Atlas's podcast, and I forget who he was referring to, but he made a perfect analogy of going into the hornet's nest. Fighting Sebastian Fundora is like going inside a hornet's nest. It is hell in there. You are not coming out unscathed. You know, he will throw a dozen of compact hooks and uppercuts, and he is able to generate such leverage that even his arm punches, quote unquote, are clubbing and concussive, and they just hurt. You know, they are damaging. And another thing is that I saw him change gears in this fight. You know, he changed his tempo a little bit. I saw him do the usual, you know, which is to throw in great quantity to overwhelm with volume. But he changed it up, you know, in the third round, I believe it was. He slowed it down a little bit and opted to almost snipe and sharpshoot with his backhand, you know. Then the very next round, he didn't fight from the mid-range. He fought up close. You know, he varies his offense a bit more now. He's a little bit more dynamic. Sebastian Fundora is a problem, people. He is an offensive juggernaut. You know, he is a beast. But with all that praise, I gotta keep it real, right? He is also very beatable. Look, people overrate how beatable he really is, though. I believe he is, right? Because he does have glaring holes in his defense. He does get hit clean too often. But people often forget that he is also a demon in that ring. Yes, you can land bombs on him, but he is one durable fighter, right? Tszyu landed dozens of flush right hands and left hooks on him, and he took them all and kept it pushing. He has a damn good chin. He can take punishment, right? The question is, can his opponents take what he's dishing out, right? I think where Fundora really needs to be tested is his body. Tszyu landed a few straight rights to Fundora's torso, and I didn't really like Fundora's reaction when he took him. So if he has any weakness at all, I believe that would be it. But the thing is, Fundora's torso is pretty short, and he's so slim, and his arms are so long that it's actually so much harder to hit his body than people would assume, right? If you really take a look at his physique, he has a short torso and long legs. Even when his guard is up, guarding his face, most of his body is still covered by his forearms. He is a freak, and I mean that in a positive way. So Fundora is just a cheat code. You know, he is. I don't think he's unbeatable, but it's gonna take someone with great timing, accuracy, power, IQ, and defense to get the job done. I say out of the current 154 crop right now, the only one I'll truly favor over Fundora is Virgil Ortiz. Nobody else quite has that package that Ortiz has, except maybe Jaron Ennis, you know, but you know, he's unproven at 154, so we'll have to wait and see about that. But yeah, that's it for me. What did you think of the fight? Who do you think beats Fundora? You know, I'm interested in what you have to say about that. Who should they fight next? You know, who should Fundora fight next? Who should Tim Tszyu fight next? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Please leave a like and subscribe. And I want to thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a lovely day.